You are interested in the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here.
3, 2, 1.
Spook. We are gathered here as advisors, as scientists.
The kind of place we expect a ghost to like to wander around.
Hey, we all know that we're gonna die, baby.
I'll help you. I'm something of a witch.
Welcome to Mission Spooky. I'm your fantastic host, JC. With me today, as per usual, the queen of everything herself, Kiki, and our local cryptid enthusiast, Cord. How you guys doing today?
I am I'm feeling slightly under the weather, but we're gonna make it work.
Slightly, she says.
Please leave that coughing sound in there.
Slightly under
No.
the weather.
Yeah, it's bad. It sounds worse than it really is. I've just got that one nostril, just post-nasal drip, and it's just
Get Shrek, nerd.
yeah, I'm wrecked. But this is the first time that we're gonna do this, and future episodes we might just revisit some of the things that we already talked about when Cord wasn't with us. But if you are listening to this episode, you may have listened to this already when it was just me and JC, because we are redoing Wildwood Cemetery in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. Finally, because this was back when COVID had first hit,
Ooh.
and we had some major issues with recording on Discord. I had said I always wanted to redo this episode anyway, and now that Cord's here, you're going to get brand new material. And since the last time we talked about it, there's been a new historical discovery at the cemetery, so that's pretty cool. We're going to get into that too.
Sick, bruv.
Sick, nasty.
Sick, nasty, bro. So we're
I'm glad it's wearing off on somebody. Somebody's starting to pick it up. Hey, JC.
Yes, Cord.
Why couldn't the skeleton go into the cemetery?
Why couldn't the skeleton go into the cemetery? Well, I'm technically cemeteries are sanctified ground. Skeletons would be a construct that is usually held together by dark magics. Maybe it couldn't go in because it was.
You are such a nerd.
So what's the answer you were looking for?
He had no body to go with. Get used to it, buddy. This is my thing now.
well, speaking of bodies,
Hey!
so back in the day, this was a listener choice episode. Wildwood Cemetery, episode 23. Originally, we had done this on April the 8th of 2020. So it was kind of right after COVID. And something happened with my voice recording, which had not happened up to that point. And it's so bad. It was all staticky. It was terrible. We went with it because, we were still trying to put out content and we wanted people to have something to listen to because we were all stuck inside. So it's Wildwood Cemetery, the Weeping Statue, the Banshee, and the Fireman. And we're going to discuss all those things again, only this time Cord's going to be with us, and I won't sound too terrible other than the fact that I'm a little bit sick this week. That sucks. And then there was a pretty significant discovery that was made in 2021 in the cemetery. So that's an addition to, so that'll be something new for people who have already listened to it. And of course, you're going to get Cord's take on this as well. So
Yeah.
I'm taking down completely the old audio, and it is so bad that I don't even think I want to put it on Patreon as just a archived episode. It's just the audio was oh my god. Thank you to the hundreds of people who wound up listening to it regardless of the fact that it was terrible, because I can't believe how many people actually did listen to it considering it's so bad.
It boggles my mind that any one of our episodes gets listened to by anyone. It just, because we're just people. It just I don't know. Boggles my mind. I'm very humble about it,
All right. So as I said, you guys are wonderful listeners that originally chosen this. I will give you a little bit of information about Williamsport to start with, in case you guys are from out of town. It is the seat of Lycoming County. It's about an hour and a half north of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Williamsport is known for being the original home of Little League Baseball and was once host to more millionaires per capita than anywhere in the world.
What?
at one time. Yeah.
That's pretty bonkers. I never heard
Right?
of that.
Just about 5 miles from a road locals call the end of the world. It's called this because it appears like it's the edge of the world when you go driving along it in the middle of the night. It's some kind of it's a visual effect. It's supposed to be pretty cool. Anyway, at the end of the world lies Wildwood Cemetery. Very fitting.
Sick.
So, Wildwood Cemetery was incorporated in 1863, and it features some very prominent burials, including 4 congressmen and NFL star Bob Pellegrini, who won the championship with the 1960 Philadelphia Eagles.
Go Birds!
Right?
Hmm.
And at the end of this, I'll also tell you the brand new person that was discovered to be resting here last year. Its construction is of particular interest because it has a road that divides the cemetery in half, and it was designed to incorporate native fauna, so much so that the thick underbrush and ancient trees located in the west corner of the cemetery led to the name Wildwood. It is perhaps this melding of nature and human monuments to the dead that leads to the rumors and mythology of the cemetery. And this is actually one of my favorites to talk about because there's so much going on here. This is a massive cemetery, and it's split into 2 halves by Wildwood Boulevard. Wildwood West is on one side, and Wildwood East is on the other. Wildwood West contains 3 totally separate sections: Mount Carmel, the Mound, and Wildwood West. And Wildwood East also contains 3 separate sections called Grandview, Overlook. The Overlook is also where the Jewish section is located, and then Wildwood East. Yeah, it's huge.
That's a lot. That's a lot of space.
Yes, it is. It reminds me a little bit of how huge Sleepy Hollow Cemetery is in New York, which BT dubs coming up on spooky season. I always say when I talk about cemeteries up here at all, like in the Northeast, this one is one that you should visit for all the crazy things going on. And honestly, before that, Sleepy Hollow near
I'm in. Let's
Nyack.
go.
Yeah,
Let's
Nyack,
go.
New York is amazing. And I did the tour. I probably mentioned this a million times, but I'll say it again. I did the tour on Halloween night before my birthday of Sleepy Hollow Cemetery, and it was so informative. It was a lot of fun. There's a lot of history there as well. And of course, Washington Irving story. It's all there. Like the creek and the bridge and the church and the place where the guy supposedly is buried, the quote, headless horse. It's so much part of the history there. It's amazing. So, and this is another cemetery that's very much like it. I also recently, in case you guys were wondering about watching something, Haunted Prairie, I believe it was called, the documentary. It's on Tubi, so you can watch it for free with commercials. They covered a couple of cemeteries in Illinois, and one of them reminds me very much of Wildwood Cemetery as far as all the crazy stuff that goes on in here.
What was it called? What was the title of it?
Oh, it's called Paranormal Prairie.
Oh, okay.
Tales from Illinois' Scariest Locations. And it's directed by Joseph Turry, and it has Troy Taylor in it and Chad Lewis. And Chad's got a ton of books out. I highly recommend watching the documentary, but also pick up some of Chad's books. He does a lot of folklore stuff too. It's very interesting. Kind of like what we're doing.
Interesting.
So the first myth surrounding the cemetery, and it is, a lot of these are myths because unfortunately you can't really prove very much of it, scientifically speaking. But, and then some of it is just parts of folklore. Again, it's not, it is a myth based on tales told by people over time. So,
Sure.
This one is that the west side of the cemetery is haunted, while the east, or the quote, good side, is not. Some postulate that this tale came from the fact that the west side is host to the oldest plots, while the east holds all the newer ones. And, people tend to be a little bit more scared of older parts of cemeteries than the newer, shinier ones, I guess, maybe. So that's why that's kind of I would consider that sort of a myth. I don't know, Keeping with the good versus bad, the east side is rumored to contain fairies that can be seen dancing on clear nights. So they put the fairies in the good part of the cemetery.
Strange.
While the west side is home to a banshee that cries from the hilltop. And again, I mentioned specifically that prairie documentary because I was I don't want to say I was completely shocked, but it's very interesting that both of these, the cemetery that's in Illinois that was in that one and this one, have a crying lady statue. And both of these statues can be seen from the road. So ours here in Williamsport is from the road. It's possible to see her. She's called the Crying Lady. It's said to weep and change position on her pedestal. This is exactly like the one in the documentary about the Illinois one. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so funny that it crosses the barriers of states. I think every state somewhere has one of these like crying lady statues that changes positions. At some of the mausoleums, people think that they can hear conversations as if family members are having a talk in the afterlife. You can't quite make out what's being said.
Did you see what Junior's doing? I don't approve. He watches the DC movies and not the Marvel movies. How dare he? He knows we're a strong Marvel family.
He knows we're an Iron Man family.
There you go.
We stopped watching after Endgame for a reason.
Yeah.
Wow.
So is this like people saying that they recognize family members' voices, or that they just somebody hearing conversations?
The stories are, we think we just hear people talking inside the mausoleums. And since most mausoleums hold just one family,
Safe to assume.
yeah, the rumor is that, oh, these families are like speaking to each other in the afterlife. And that's why we can't really hear what they're saying either. That's another one of those, like, it's kind of the same thing in other types of hauntings. At my grandmother's house, for example, when my mother was growing up and that house was definitely haunted, I should tell that story for October this year, guys. She would try to fall asleep in her bedroom and she would swear that she could hear people talking in her closet.
Where all important conversations happen.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And she always thought it was really strange. And she tried to strain, you're straining to hear what they're saying. It's like muffled enough. But you can tell that they're having a conversation and you're just really trying to hear it and you can't hear it. That's kind of what it sounds like. It's like you're passing by a mausoleum and then you think you hear people talking and there's like nobody else in the cemetery except you. And you're just like, what the hell?
Interesting.
Unfortunately, I couldn't find one single first-hand story of any of the paranormal events. So most of these things are being talked about in books. For this episode back in the day, I had gone on Reddit and tried to see if anybody had any very specific Williamsport stories to add to this. But again, it was mostly just, we haven't heard any of this stuff, but this is the stories that we've been told as well. So it's just one of those, like, it just keeps getting reiterated. So I did my digging into the history of Williamsport. And because I thought it was interesting that we had fairies on one side of the cemetery and we've got a banshee on the other, and those are very European, if you will.
Extremely.
Not currently.
So specifically England, Ireland is what I think of when obviously you think of the banshee. It's like England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, fairies. That's what goes into my head.
That's fair.
So who founded Williamsport?
I'm gonna say it was the British.
It was a Scotsman named Michael Ross and an Irishman named William Hepburn.
Well, there you go, kids.
We're going to talk about the Banshee first. I'm going to give you guys the short version because we're not a podcast about Irish legends. And even though I find them intriguing, we're going to cut right to the chase in case somebody doesn't know what a Banshee is.
Oh, wait. I can do this. One moment, Kiki. One moment. I'll be
Oh,
right
God.
back.
Is he just going to go scream? Is that
I think so.
like waiting for it now?
I'm kind of hoping he screams.
I'm back.
Oh, he didn't do it. Okay.
Do what?
I thought you were just going to the other side of your room because you were going to just scream.
Yeah.
You want to know what a banshee is? I can help with this.
Yeah.
I mean, that would have been funny, but that's not what I'm getting at. I have a book about banshees, so I'm going to read.
Oh,
God damn it.
Okay.
Because I know how to read now. For this
Casey decided to be helpful and learn how to read, huh?
Wow.
very specific one book only. I know how to read.
All in the same day. You decided to help and learn to read, huh?
I know. I do what I can, Some say I'm a hero. I would not disagree with them.
You're at least my hero.
I'm gonna die.
You should get better heroes.
Especially because one of mine's about to kick off right now by the sounds of it.
Okay, so a Banshee, it's
Now,
a
hold
medium. What?
You got it. Okay, first of all,
I gotta
If
be
you're-
in the mic, right?
if,
Okay.
no, if you're gonna quote something, I need to know where you're quoting it from, and we have to say quote before you say it.
All right, so this is a quote. I'll give you the where it's quoted from shortly. Okay, so we're gonna start the quote now.
Okay.
Banshee is a medium undead chaotic evil
God damn it!
with an armor class of 12.
I knew it.
13d8 hit points, average of 58. Its speed is 0 foot, but it flies / hovers 40 foot around. Obviously, this is from the monster manual for the 5th edition D&D.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
What's the challenge rating, bud?
a 2.
4.
Oh, a
They're
4.
a challenge rating of 4.
Damn.
Their languages are Common and Elvish.
Interesting. So, Kiki, what is an actual banshee?
Banshee is sometimes an ancestral spirit appointed to forewarn members of certain ancient Irish families of their time of death. According to tradition, the Banshee can only cry for 5 major Irish families: the O'Neills, the O'Briens, the O'Connors, and the O'Gradys, and the Kavanaghs. Intermarriage has since extended this list. Now, how many of those names do you think appear in Wildwood Cemetery?
I'm going to say 4.
I think that's a little high. I'm gonna go with lower than that. I'm gonna pull the prices right and hit you with a 3.
All of them.
Yeah.
Wow. Technically, I was right. Or Price is Right rules. I'm closer.
Yeah.
So, the car's mine, bitch.
Right. My favorite is Mary O'Brien Kavanaugh. She covered 2 of those families in just one name.
Good job. You know what? She went for a goal. She knew she had the goal, and she achieved it.
Mm-hmm.
Booyah.
Mary was an overachiever. So I believe, based on that the legends came from those families directly, and it might also explain the presence of fairy folk as well.
Yeah, probably.
Another thing I'd like to mention is that this land was previously owned by the Iroquois, who sold it to the British in an attempt to keep the damn colonists from overreaching. But did they listen? No,
No.
of course not.
Yeah, I think we all kind of know how that turned out.
And in one of the whitest white privilege moments in history, the European colonists continued to invade the Iroquois land until they had finally had enough. And the result was the Plum Tree Massacre.
Like, how many plum trees died?
I love plums. I'm gonna be upset.
So, something that we'll eventually get into as well that has been on my mind ever since I was sort of reminded that the Appalachian Mountains
Yeah.
used to be, the Scottish Highlands. The Appalachians and the Atlas are all part of the same mountain range that was Central Pangean Mountains.
Correct.
And then they
We're
split
talking
apart.
quite a few years ago, but yes.
Yeah, quite a few.
Quite a few years ago.
Yeah. It's definitely more than 5 years, for sure. Technically, not wrong.
When it comes to these things when we have Scotsmen moving here, we have the English, actually just British, in general, moving to this area. It's intriguing to me, or like at least interesting to me, that they're bringing all of the folklore and mythology with them, and that it fits in here perfectly because this area just looks like Britain as well. We have, like the rolling hills, and we have areas of like right here, right down the street. When it's foggy, there has to be warning signs because of the way the fog comes in. It feels like the Scottish Highlands. It's crazy. So yeah, I'm always interested when we find something like this where we have these British folks moving in, founding Williamsport, and along with that, we get all the folklore that just comes right with it. And why not? Like, who's to say that there isn't a fairy realm here in this area? Because it's the same mountains, it was all part of the same land at one point. If you want to go with, that it's the land brings them, so to speak. I don't know.
I mean, at that point, then, like, all the land was the same land at one point.
Oh my god.
Right. Well, yeah, but that's kind of the point.
Yeah. Because, there are creatures that, like, how many different cultures have, like, a goblin-esque creature that lives in the woods and lures you into the forest, and, like, that type of creature is seen throughout the world.
More or less, there's a Bigfoot rendition in like every ancient civilization, like on the planet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, maybe the portal to the fairy realm just opens up wherever it wants to, because we all used to be part of the same land anyway.
Yeah.
Checks out.
Anyway, what is definitely known about this wonderful cemetery is it is the final resting place of local fireman Thomas Purcell. Purcell suffered from taphophobia, which is the fear of being buried alive.
Was he buried alive?
If he ends up buried alive, I'm going to be very upset.
This led him to design a mausoleum that was locked on the outside, but was able to be opened from the inside.
Interesting.
And this is also during a time where there were waiting mortuaries where bodies would lie in beds until signs of putrefaction occurred. In other words, his fear was not entirely unfounded. They wanted to make sure that you were dead before they buried you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that we've heard about how many times was somebody buried in the old world, so to speak, and they weren't dead and they had the little bells that you could ring, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that's exactly what happened here too. So the coffins were outfitted with these bells and tubes for air and even feeding people if necessary. You could apparently shove food down of the tube. Here's a piece of bread.
Really?
We'll get to you in a minute. But Purcell believed that these measurements were not extreme enough. Perhaps the meager tone of a bell in the dead of night inside a massive cemetery devoid of living caretakers just wasn't enough. He took matters into his own hands and designed a vaulted apparatus that would allow the revived to ventilate their coffin from inside via a patented wheel lock that he devised. Each tomb was lined with felt for comfort and warmth should they begin to panic, and any deceased family members would be buried with tools and bread. Smart man. He was thinking ahead.
So they put like a shovel in the coffin?
Purcell's burial hatch is a singular stone structure bearing 5 metal wheels, one for each tomb, and resembles basically a very large pizza oven. That's the only way to describe it. It really does look just like a giant pizza oven. It's kind of funny. Purcell was buried in his own creation at the age of 83 in 1937. The grave goods sent with him were an axe, a hammer, and a loaf of bread. There were no signs of any attempted escape.
Interesting.
Oh, good.
Well,
Oh, man. This is a cemetery that you can visit. The hours are going to be 7:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day. Now, I think that 8 p.m. would be based, though, on daylight savings time. So I'm pretty sure during the fall and winter months, it's going to be at nightfall, like most cemeteries in Pennsylvania are. No visitation after nightfall, unless you have permission. And as always, we say, make sure when doing any kind of ghost hunting or investigations that you ask for permission.
always ask permission.
Yes.
The west side of the cemetery is a fairly easy walk. However, if you walk to the outskirts, there are heavily wooded areas that would require decent walking shoes. The wooded part of the cemetery can be very dense. So summer months, they do suggest wearing a lot of bug spray or tick spray. The east side of the cemetery is a pretty steep hike, so be prepared for that. At the top of the east side of the cemetery is a scenic overlook that also provides a good place for stargazing. And parking is available during the cemetery office hours, which may change during the seasons, as I said. So just make sure to check the website before you decide to go out and check it out. And now, as I promised, a new discovery that was recently made last year, in August of last year, actually. The wife of the last surviving African-American Civil War soldier is buried at this cemetery. Mary Willis, she was wife of a Union soldier, James Henry Willis. She died in 1917 and was buried at Wildwood Cemetery. However, this piece of local history was not found out until March of 2021. And that discovery was made by Mike Luna.
Good job, Mike.
Yeah. His quote is, "I knew the Willises lived in Williamsport, so I called the cemetery to see if they had any burial records for them. They said not only did they have a record for Mary Willis, but she was one of the few African Americans from the era who actually had a headstone. We searched the area where they thought she was buried, and we found the headstone. It had fallen over and slid down the hill a little bit, but it was there. End quote. When she passed away, she had 2 burial plots purchased, one for her and one for her husband. After she died, he moved to Jersey.
Ew.
I know, right? I know, right? Ew.
Ew.
He lived for another 25 years in Jersey, and he's buried in Jersey. And they feel like he may not have known that she had purchased 2 plots. He literally may not have known that he had a burial plot with her available.
I mean, even if he like knew at the time, it's 25 years and sometimes you just forget.
Right, yeah. It could also be during that time period too that moving the body from Jersey all the way back to Williamsport might
Just
have
wasn't
cost
like
a
a
lot of
thing, yeah.
money. It might have cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, they charged when my father passed away. We didn't really have to worry about that. But on the list, though, of things that you purchase, I was a little bit shocked at how much it costs just to move a body if you did have to transport a body from one state to another, for example. But it makes sense because there's so many logistics that have to go into it, especially where if you have to, for example, if you died like in North Carolina and have to have your body moved to Virginia, that's a little bit costly, especially if you choose to fly it, for example. So, anywho, I get it. He may have just been like, I don't have enough money to get there. It's okay. And then it was really nice to see in this particular article that's from northcentralpa.com. There's some kids from the Honor Society for Social Studies, Rho Kappa, who went down there and planted a tree at the gravesite in remembrance. of
Oh,
her-
that's
and her-
nice.
yeah, and her historical relevance. That's very sweet. And good going, kiddos. And kudos to their teacher. Yeah, so that was pretty cool to find that out about Wildwood Cemetery.
I dig. That's interesting.
But you don't want to dig there.
Not unless you're planting a memorial tree.
True.
Yeah, I like this idea of the fairies being seen dancing in the moonlight on certain days of the year. I couldn't find out like too much more about it. As I said, there's not a lot of like firsthand experience, but that one's definitely like an old story that's been passed down through generation to generation in that area. And I did get a hold of some folklore books recently for Central PA, and I'm kind of scouring through there to see if there's any connections to any of these stories. So we can always do follow up on that, if I find out anything. But right now, just seems like a interesting story. And I just love these statues that move.
Yeah, weeping angels.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. What's funny is if you go to do the research, like if you just type in statues that move, like
That's all that's going to come up.
Doctor Who is the first thing that comes up.
Oh, for sure. Especially they're like an iconic Doctor Who monster at this point.
I'm so glad that I'm enough of a Doctor Who nerd that I know what weeping angels are. Because if you don't know, you guys are missing out. Please go watch Doctor Who.
Meh.
It's great. I love it. And then
No one cares that you don't care, Cord. Not liking something doesn't mean you're interesting.
Our musical guest for this episode is remaining Zagreus. I like Zagreus. It's the son of Hades and Persephone, god of hunting and rebirth. I had a podcasting story to go with this one. I'm going to tell it again. I'm on Twitter, and I'm getting ready to talk to Trev Allen from the Struggling Artist podcast. Trev's doing great, by the way.
I thought he was struggling.
He's the Struggling Artist podcast. It's really cool. He talks to all kinds of creative types, including musicians. And we're talking about Pennsylvania because Trev lived here for a little bit because of work. And I'm listening to his podcast, and he had on Adam Sloan on his 4th episode. And Adam is in 3 different bands. There's Dead Man's Trigger, End Time Illusion, and Zagreus. So I contacted Trev, who then contacted Adam. And now you're going to listen to Adam's music because that's how it works sometimes in the podcasting industry. You just make contact with people and then, hey, there you go.
Right.
And Adam's very cool. He's a really, really cool, laid back kind of dude. I adore him. And we've actually used some of his music already in a couple of different places when we're trying to do Pot of Holding, for example. He just lets us use the music. There's no copyright to it. There's no, he's kind of like a very much, I made it. I want to put it out into the world. I want people to listen to it. Zagreus, however, is very reminiscent of Skinny Puppy for me. I was a big Skinny Puppy fan. And He has in Zagreus, Laurel Marsh also sings with him, and we featured Laurel before. She's great. And I kind of laughed because I said, well, Zagreus is kind of like Hades and Persephone getting together and then creating this awesome child named Zagreus. So anyway, the song that we're going to play is called A Whisper, and it's from the 2018 self-titled album Zagreus. When we get back, we'll do Spooky Squad news.
Welcome back, everybody.
Hey, if you want to join the squad, head on over to patreon.com/missionspooky. We have tiers at the $1, $3, and $5 level. One single buck gets you a shout out on the cast and access to our boober reels, also archive material. The $3 level gets you access to our stat block cards for our creatures for Cord versus Cryptid, and some Kiki's Quirk stuff and anything else that we want to put up there. Sometimes we give you guys early access at the $3 level to some of our side missions as well. And the $5 level right now just means that you love us and you want to support us. You can send your PA or New Jersey-based ghost stories to missionspookypodcast@gmail.com. We're always interested in hearing from you guys, and it's something that we've always want to add, like just listener stories at some point. But we need you to tell us what you know. You know, you gotta email us. You can also email us with any questions or comments from previous episodes.
Yeah, like why is JC so annoying? We'll give you the answer. You just have to ask it.
We also have a YouTube channel. Our new exclusive to YouTube is going to be our movie reviews. You can find all of our musical guests on Spotify by typing in Mission Spooky and then the year. Also on YouTube, we have our musical guest music and music videos, if any, are there. You can also follow us on our Facebook page. We don't spend a lot of time on Facebook, or mostly Twitter and Instagram. And we also have a TikTok now for Mission Spooky. You can also rate and review us on iTunes and Podchaser. Just remember to be kind. Even if you hate us, just let us down easy. So guys, I've been getting oracle cards to test out for something interesting that I've noted. I came across a lot of different witches and paranormal type folks who are using oracle cards at different locations, kind of doing a spread, or just choosing one card as kind of like the baseline for the activity, like how's it going to be tonight, and then maybe like when you get there. And I mean, I'm not going to lie, a lot of the cards are absolutely gorgeous and I just want them anyway for the artwork.
It's just ulterior motives much.
Yeah, but I've collected 4 sets. One is on the way. I have an animal card set that's really beautiful. I have a botanical set.
Ooh.
Yeah. And I just got the Viking Oracle set because it definitely speaks to me being a Zagreus. So I was like, I like this. So I thought it'd be fun. I just opened these. I shuffled them. I haven't spent a lot of time with them. And I'm going to turn the card over and let you guys know what it is. This is the very first one that I'm turning over.
Uh-oh.
Are you ready?
Someone says she's turning over a new card in life.
I hope it's not a Squirtle card.
You've activated my trap card. It's the man-eater bug.
Man-eater bug wasn't a trap card, loser.
Shut the f- up, Cord. No one gives a shit about reality and facts. They're here for entertainment.
How much of a nerd are you? I'm going to flip over an oracle card. You've activated my flip effect.
Wow.
I mean, a little bit.
We're losers, dude.
Yeah.
Card me.
Yeah, I was like, are you guys done being
Being fantastic human beings? No.
turds?
Literally never.
Okay. I got the 9 worlds card, essentially meaning that everything is connected and that we are never truly alone. Huh. Well,
There is 3 of us.
there's 3 of us.
And if you multiply 3 by 3, 3 being a power number, right, you get 9. Each one of us is our own world. And because we got the 9 worlds, it basically means our group, our Mission Spooky Society, is going to grow into 90 different co-hosts. That's the math.
Wow. Okay.
I checked out the second I heard his inflection, and really, that was enough.
Right.
That's fair.
I was thinking that it meant that, me and JC are just big enough to be worth 9 planets.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, we're huge, buddy.
Wow.
Well, anyway,
Wow.
that was fun.
I liked mine better because it didn't, make me feel bad about myself, Cord.
I didn't make myself feel bad.
No, you made me feel bad.
No, I didn't. Shut up.
You're right. I don't have feelings.
No.
All right, so yeah, what does 9 worlds actually mean?
I told you.
Wait,
She
did you?
literally said before you started talking what it meant.
Oh, I was too into me. What
You
does
were
it
Yeah.
mean?
totally paying attention.
That actually checks out. You're totally into you. Yep. All into yourself. Perfect.
Got him.
So anyway, in case anybody is wondering, these are the Viking Oracle cards, Wisdom of the Ancient Norse, and it is by Stacy DeMarco, and it is put out by Blue Angel Publishing. Now, normally I would just bring my runes with me to a site, but I like the fact that these have gods, goddesses, all the runes, and events as well, like Ragnarok, the halls, the great halls. So I just thought, it's a little bit more than just runes. And I don't know. Just they're very nice cards. They're really pretty. They're also larger than a normal size deck. Anywho, that's what's up.
Hell yeah.
All right, so taking us out again is Zagreus with A Whisper. You can find their music on Spotify, and you can also go support them on Bandcamp like we did. Until next time, stay spooky and don't die. But if you do, contact us.
By pulling on that little string that rings the bell by your tombstone.
Had I known what you'd become, I would never have lent you a helping hand. You jive with deception. You jive with deception. When my will is creation. My will is creation. You rattled in my headspace. The sound of you